Hey! Welcome back to Flynn Dog Woodwork. For those of you who've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I have a desire to get into hand tools. The problem is hand tools are super expensive. These are made by craftsmen, and the price reflects that. Sometimes these hand tools are more expensive than their power tool counterparts. But what if I were to tell you there's a cheaper solution to many of these expensive hand tools that you can buy off of Amazon.com? Let's take a look at this today and see if we can get you into a hand plane for a cheap price. So I got a package in the mail this week, and I can 100% tell you that what's inside that package was not made by a craftsman. It was probably made by a machine in China, and the price reflects that. However, for an entry-level tool, you just can't beat this price. So for this tool, I have my expectations set really low. I live by the formula that happiness is inversely proportional to expectations. So by setting my expectations low, I hope to get a little bit of pleasure out of using this tool. So we've all heard of the brand Amazon Basics. This is Amazon.com's generic brand, and a lot of us have purchased batteries and allergy medicines and a lot of other things. Not once did I think I would be buying a hand plane that's made by Amazon Basics. But that's exactly what I did. I purchased a number 4 hand plane from Amazon Basics. Let's open this box and see how it compares to the Stanley Sweetheart number 4. So let's take a look to see what comes in the box. You have your directions, and obviously you have your plane. Let's take this out and see how it compares to the Stanley number 4. So this will be my third number 4 plane. You may be asking, why in the hell would you have 3 number 4 planes? And I don't have an answer for that, other than the price of this Amazon Basics number 4 was so cheap, I wanted to see what it was all about. This is my first number 4 plane, and this is a Cobalt number 4. The next purchase I got was a Stanley Sweetheart number 4, and this thing is wonderful. Lastly, we have the Amazon Basics number 4. So my intentions with this video are to compare and contrast the original Stanley Sweetheart number 4 with this Amazon Basics number 4. So right off the bat, I can already tell you that the Stanley number 4 feels like a higher quality tool. This thing is considerably more heavy than this Amazon Basics number 4. The first thing that I want to do is to test this Amazon plane right out of the box. I haven't adjusted anything, and this is as it comes right out of the box. In my vise here, I have a piece of poplar, so let's see how it cuts through that. And I can already tell that the blade's just a little bit too low, but that was actually a pretty decent slice. So I'm going to adjust this blade and back it off a bit. So I've putzed around with this plane a little bit, and I'm either getting no shavings whatsoever, or I'm getting shavings that are just way too thick. So I think it's a blade issue. Let's take a closer look at the components of this plane and see what we need to do to fix it. So let's take a closer look at the construction of this plane. If we look at the tote and we look at the front knob, these are both made of plastic. When we look at the actual blade, there is no actual chip breaker. There's simply the lever cap as well as the blade itself. When we look at how you actually adjust the blade, you have to unscrew the lever cap and then you adjust it up and down by screwing these knobs. You can also adjust whether it goes left or right by screwing one just a little bit more than the other. To take the blade out of the plane, you actually have to use a screwdriver to loosen the lever cap. Once that's off, you can remove the blade. If we take a closer look at the frame of the actual plane, you can see that the frog, if you want to call it that, is actually attached to the frame of the plane. You'll also notice that there's no lateral adjustment lever on this plane. To make a lateral adjustment, you simply need to screw these in and out to get to that lateral movement that you're looking for. Hey folks, before we move on, I ask you to do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, as it really does help out this small channel. I'm trying to get to 1,500 subscribers by the first of the year, so if you can help me out, I'd really appreciate it. Now let's compare the thickness of the Stanley number 4 blade to the Amazon Basics number 4 blade. And you can see from this image here that the Amazon number 4 blade is just a little over half the thickness of the Stanley blade. So hopefully you can see this from this image, but there are some burrs along the side of the blade. And this I'm sure is from the manufacturing process. Now this blade is in no way sharp, as I can't even cut any hair on my arm. So let's sharpen this up on the sharpening stones and see if we can boost the performance of this blade. Alright, so after about a half hour's worth of work, I finally got the back flat. There was a huge crater on the back, and this was very hard to get out. The good news is that means that steel isn't as soft as I thought it was, but the bad news is this thing was not straight. So now I'm going to do the bevel, and then we're going to move forward. All right, so now I have that secondary bevel on that blade and it looks very nice and shiny. Now let's give it a haircut test. And it is slicing right through my hair there, so that's great. Let's put this back in the plane and see if it cuts any better. So here I am over at the vise. Now I've gone ahead and placed the blade into the actual plane, and I've made sure that it's actually completely flat with the sole of this plane. It's just jutting out just a tad, and it's nice and flat. The only thing left to do is to see how this thing cuts. And here I'm getting some much more nice wispy shavings, which is exactly what I was looking for. When I touch the wood, it's completely silky smooth. So let's go over some of the final comparisons of the Stanley Sweetheart No. 4 plane versus the Amazon Basics No. 4 plane. Now we already mentioned that the Stanley plane has got a nice wooden tote and wooden handle, versus the Amazon plane, which has a plastic tote and plastic handle. When we compare the lateral adjustment of these two planes, you can see that the Stanley blade has got a lateral adjustment lever right here. When we look at the Amazon plane, the lateral adjustment is made by maneuvering these two knobs here to adjust your blade left and right. When we compare the depth adjustment for the blades, the Stanley plane has a knob right under the blade that allows you to lower the blade and raise the blade. On the Amazon plane, you have to make sure that you adjust these two knobs to lower the blade and raise the blade. When we look at the blade housing of the two planes, you can see that the Stanley plane actually has a chip breaker, while the Amazon plane has no chip breaker. There's also a considerable difference between the blades in these two planes. The Stanley blade is made of A2 steel and it's considerably thicker than the Amazon Basics blade. The last difference that I want to point out between these two planes is that the Stanley Sweetheart No. 4 allows you to adjust the mouth of the plane. By simply twisting the front handle, you can adjust the mouth side by flipping this lever. If we look at the other side, you can see that the mouth adjusts open and closed. The Amazon plane only has one setting and does not allow you to adjust the mouth. Lastly, the Amazon Basics plane does not cut well right out of the box, but that's to be expected. When I got my Stanley Sweetheart No. 4, it didn't do so well out of the box either. I had to take the blade out, flatten the back, and create those sharp bevels that I was looking for so that my plane could cut exactly how I wanted it to. So what's my verdict on this plane? Well, for the price, you just can't beat it. And just a little bit of work and a little bit of blade sharpening, you can get this plane working almost as good as a Stanley No. 4. So for me, this is going to be a scrub plane. Whenever I have a really rough piece of lumber, I can start off the smoothing process with this plane. Then I don't have to worry about damaging or dulling my Stanley No. 4 blade. So that's it for today, folks, and I think this plane might have a use in your shop whether you're a seasoned veteran or a beginner. I'm going to be using this as a scrub plane, but many people might be using this as their primary plane. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a like. I really do appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you again next time.